Welcome to BackWords. I'm Dr. Dan Francis. We're in Plymouth, Wisconsin tonight in my office, and with us tonight is Katie Henning. She has been a massage therapist for a long time in Plymouth and has had a successful massage business. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk a little bit about that, but then we're going to go into, Katie has gone into lifestyle coaching, a lifestyle coach. And I think that's a real neat niche, and we're going to talk to her about how she came about that. And then talk, you can see here we've got a smorgasbord of different foods. We're going to talk a little bit about the health and wellness of diet and other things that she does throughout her new career. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So tell me a little bit. You've been a massage therapist for how long?
17 years.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you live right down the street from my office. So we've known each other, I think, the 21 years I've been here. And how long ago did you switch over? Not switch over, you still do massage.
Right.
But how long ago did you start thinking about becoming a lifestyle coach?
Probably about 3 years ago, 4 years ago maybe. My son was really sick with bronchitis for a very long time, and I decided to take, his health into my hands and really kind of investigate, what was going on. So I took him to the doctor. They kept putting him on antibiotics all the time, and finally I said, I want this taken care of. So we had his blood tested, and he was very, very low in vitamin D. So the doctor recommended very high doses, and that did help. But we decided that we needed to clean up his digestive system because it was so damaged from all the antibiotics. So we put him on probiotics, and we also got him going on tons of different greens. And if you realize that greens are actually resembling our lungs, kale, and it's a great, great vegetable. So we started juicing for him, and he's really thrived.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because, I would imagine that you and I have treated a lot of the same patients over the years, and you see certain patients get better quicker, and they tend to be patients that have two things. One, they tend not to smoke, and two, they tend to eat and exercise better. Mm-hmm. And when you see that, it's amazing how the body will recuperate and heal itself from within.
Right. Food is definitely a healing source.
Yeah.
Along with other therapies.
And we were talking the digestive tract. Mm-hmm. We had talked about this on another show that it's only one cell layer thick. Mm-hmm. The whole digestive tract from your mouth to your butt is actually outside your body. It's a modified skin layer, and when you start eating right, you can heal it from within. It's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. Just give it enough time.
Absolutely.
And the right nutrients, right?
Right.
So then what? Then what happened after that?
Well, then I started looking online about different programs where I could actually have more of a title and kind of go into companies and possibly help their employees through, wellness speaking. And I've actually done that. I'm actually a part of the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. Okay. So you pay a certain fee for that. But I went to school, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. It was about a year course, and I studied about 100 different dietary theories because
that'll get your head spinning.
Yeah, there's anything from the blood type diet to the 2-second diet.
Sure.
And I think everybody's
every 2 seconds you start over.
Yeah, exactly. But I think everybody is so different in how they, what might work for you might not work for me. So I think it's just finding that individual purpose for that specific person.
So you have gone into some companies, doing some work within the companies. Mm-hmm. As an employer, they have to love the fact that you're getting to the root of some of their health problems.
It is true. A lot of companies have wellness point systems, so you do get a lot of point seekers.
Yeah.
So it's hard to attract the people that really need you, that aren't coming in.
Yeah.
So that's my new goal, is to really get those people that actually could really use the information on what an avocado is, that could come and talk to me.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, is that when you're in a diet, a good diet or a bad diet, you start to becomes your norm. Mm-hmm. And you don't know how good you feel necessarily or how bad you feel.
Right.
And a lot of those people don't know that their sickness is something that they can take into their own hands.
Right.
And it's hard to motivate them until they get really deep into the gutter in their health a lot of times.
Right, exactly.
So what are the different aspects of lifestyle coaching?
Well, I think the main thing is just figuring out for somebody what are they missing in their life. I tend to focus on primary food and secondary food. Primary food being things like career, relationships, spirituality, physical activity. What did you often do as a child? Did you dance? Did you swim? Why aren't you doing that anymore? So much of it comes from people finding their joy. And I think just having somebody to help you figure that out is really what, lifestyle and health coaching is.
So you're finding that people are getting into ruts with their life,
Yeah.
whether it be work, whether it be home, but they're not doing what they want to do.
Right.
And they get into a rut.
They're stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that does affect your life, right? I
Right.
mean, I've always believed that we're mind, body, and spirit.
Right.
And it's a tripod. And if one of those legs goes out, you're not going to stand very well.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I see that when patients come in. I'm sure you do. That
Yeah.
they're in a bad way. When they're in pain, it affects the way you eat. When you eat poorly, it affects how much pain you're in. It's amazing.
Right. It is. And I think for some people, just having somebody to talk to and listen to them is really helpful, because a lot of people don't have, other people that they could go to.
Sure.
So I think just getting it out on the table is part of the healing process.
Well, I think that's why massage therapists and chiropractors, their patients tend to be fairly loyal towards that chiropractor or that massage therapist, because when you're laying on the hands and literally getting it out on the table, it does. A lot of people really just need to let that
Right.
let that out. So when a person comes in, do you have them fill out certain information? So you're trying to ascertain what level, what angle to go at? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, so they'll get a general health history with me. And at first they'll be wondering, why is she asking me like how many pets I have, but it's actually to form a relationship with people. And then we'll get to some of the areas. What did you eat as a child is what I always go back to. So like we have some Twinkies here. That might strike something,
This is a year old.
Mom always used to pack Twinkies in my lunch.
Just as fresh as when I bought it.
Exactly, no mold. But then I ask them what they're eating today, and maybe that's going to be junk, and maybe maybe there's no greens. The number one.
Sometimes it isn't that they're eating bad, but they're missing a whole food category.
Exactly.
I see that a lot.
Yeah. But some people, the number one missing food in the American diet is greens, and I think the second is fiber. And I don't think enough people are getting the 40 grams that they're supposed to be getting a day. So, I have people fill out a form like, how many of these whole foods did you eat in the past 24 hours? And some people are just, I don't even know what that is, which is really sad.
And you have to be very specific.
Yeah.
Because if you say, do you have a good diet? Yeah, I have a good diet. And then you look at their form, and it's like, Cocoa Puffs aren't a good diet because it says it's fortified.
Right.
Fruit Loops doesn't count as a serving of fruit.
Right. Exactly.
They're cracking up over there because I'm cracking this diet. A fruit roll-up doesn't count either. But it's those types of things. There's a pretty big marketing machines out there, putting out campaigns that are much bigger than this show.
Exactly.
And so you got to battle them, educate one person at a time.
Right. And people aren't really buying, food anymore. They're buying products, like you said, with
products.
Marketing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And there's a big difference, I think, overall. We'll start talking about food in a couple minutes here. But there's a big difference between just calories, which we tend to look at, and nutritional value.
Right.
And you can have calories and have no nutritional value, and then you're going to eat that food and you're going to be hungry because you're still starving for nutrition.
Right. So I really like to do like a breakfast experiment with people in the morning and see what they're eating for breakfast, and then 2 hours later if they're hungry or not. And a lot of times people's diets in the morning are fine, but they're just missing maybe some carbohydrate. Maybe they're just eating protein, but everybody's so different.
Yes.
That if I see if they have a carb and a protein and they're good until noon, maybe that's a better way to eat instead of the muffin that causes that sugar crash right away.
Oh, absolutely. We should chat a little bit about that, because I did a talk at the high school the other day, and boy, this class, I got them at 7:30. You'd have thought it was 10:30 at night. And then I asked all the laggards what, they were all deadened in their chair, and they all had the Fruit Loops Cocoa Puffs, sugar-coated, corn flakes, and
I hope
sugar
my
on
son
top
wasn't
of
in
the
your
corn. He wasn't, but it was, then you look at the next class and you listen to what they ate, and their energy was just way higher, and boom, it was a totally different diet that they were eating. And so much of the educational and behavioral issues really stem from what you're trying to tackle here.
Yeah, a lot of different dyes and colorings can cause different ADD.
Why is that?
I just think it's chemical,
Bogs down the liver.
Yeah, I really think it is chemical for a lot of these kids. We're not eating like how our grandparents ate anymore. We're eating these products that have red number 4 and
when you look at the labels, it's pretty telling. These things don't sound like foods, and we'll look at some of that. Is there a repetitive time that you tend to work with someone? How long will you tend to work with them over?
Usually about 12 sessions, because each session, they're going to tell you something different, and or 1 week we're going to try this. Maybe we're going to eliminate wheat for a week and then add it back in on the 7th day. I like to use the elimination diet for that and see how they feel. And I'll usually do that if somebody's having stomach problems, because generally a typical trigger is going to be that or dairy.
Yeah.
So.
And it's the nice thing about when you eliminate and add back in is you're letting the person, they're starting to eat with a little bit of intent.
Right.
And not only are they just eating, but they're paying attention to what happens to them after. I don't think we do that too often. We just eat. I think I ate. I got my calories. I'm not hungry anymore. But the truth is you should be paying attention to how you feel afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. And it usually takes somebody 20 minutes to be full. So a lot of people, struggle with that. They just keep eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so slowing it down, putting your fork down, things like that.
Because if you eat too fast, the signal from your brain to your gut is 20 minutes late. You've ate 20 minutes extra before you found out you were actually full.
Exactly.
That's why it pays to chew your food, right?
Yes.
So, we'll be right back. We're going to talk about some of these foods and try to give you some tips on how to shop right and eat right. We're talking back and we're talking foot. Why foot for back? That's because if your foot is flattening, and I'm going to show you a foot, if your foot is flattening, what's going to happen is instead of having a proper arch, as it collapses in, your whole knee rocks in. As the knee rocks in, you're going to see your whole hip give, and all kinds of pain develops from that. So a simple exercise to help if you're getting that kind of pressure in on your spine is to take your foot and to shorten it. You're going to contract that arch up, and then once you contract that arch and hold it, you just balance. And when you can do that for 30 seconds, just balancing, you're going to start to see your arch get stronger and stronger, because the bottom of your foot is actually layers and layers of muscles, and when you keep those strong, you're going to have a better arch. A better arch builds a strong foundation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to BackWords. We're here with Katie Henning, a lifestyle coach. And what we are going to do right now is we're going to start talking a little bit about some of these different foods. She's going to give us some ideas about what she educates people on as far as diet.
Okay. So the first thing I tell people is to shop on the outskirts of the grocery store. You're going to want to load up on your produce. Fresh is always best. Frozen is okay too, because they tend to pick, the vegetables and fruits at the peak of season. Canned, I would stay away from that because of all the extra sodium and things.
In the like, if you go with the canned fruit, what's going to be in that canned fruit along with it?
It's usually high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, there's a lot of either sugar or you're driving the sugar content up.
Right.
And I think when you sit it in there, it's not as
Right.
digestible. It just isn't. It's
Fresh.
not nearly as good. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the can liner also there's BPA, which is a plastic that they heat up when they use the canning process, and that plastic gets into our food. So, like I tell people a lot of times, if you're going to eat beans, I mean, if you're crunched for time, open up a can of beans, but if you can take a package of dry beans and soak them overnight and then cook them, they're going to be easier to digest, and they're not going to have any salt.
Yeah.
So you can control that.
And there, salt gets a bad rap because we're looking at it. It's refined salt that really is bad.
Right.
The whole food salt that
Right.
talked about in the Bible, that's a different thing. That's got a lot of different minerals in there.
Yeah.
So when you're adding this refined salt to a lot of these foods, that's what drives up a lot of the blood pressure numbers and retains water, and that's what makes a mess out of a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So what else do you have here?
So when we're cooking, we talk, there's a big controversy with coconut oil. A lot of heart doctors don't really think it's the greatest thing, but it actually has lauric acid in it, which is the same chemical or property as mother's milk. So it actually helps to speed up your metabolism. It's really good for constipation, heartburn, acid reflux. You can moisturize yourself with it. You can.
I use it on my face at night.
Yeah.
We use that for popcorn, for a lot of different cooking. We put it on baked potatoes instead of butter. Mm-hmm. It's really nutritious food. Coconut oil that got chastised was processed.
Right.
They were throwing hydrogen atoms on it, and they're hydrogenating coconut oil. It's no longer a food. It's a food product.
Right.
And so there's a big difference between a natural coconut that is usable and is a food. And, we're not going to quote all the studies, but boy, you look at the island folks who use these foods, they're not dying of the same degenerative diseases that we are.
Right. We just took a trip to the Dominican Republic, and actually this is from the Dominican. I just poured it in. It has a much stronger coconut smell than you would. Yep. So we got this right from the plantation.
Oh, that's
and I just poured it into here. It's really
very
cool. But I like to tell people, if you're going to have butter, have butter. Don't have, I can't believe it's not butter. And that used to be the old fad, but honestly, your body doesn't know how to recognize that. So,
which is what causes the damage. Right. Because those margarines, and again, the hydrogenated products, those things are like cheese graters to your artery.
Yeah.
That's what does the damage, and then all kinds of stuff that's good for you sticks to it.
Right.
And to plug it up and to heal it, and all of a sudden you're blaming what plugged it up instead of what caused the damage.
Exactly. When you're using olive oil, I try to use cold pressed olive oil. This guy got at Costco, and actually Costco has some really good products because they always want the best stuff. So I also teach classes on, how to cook on a budget, because so many people are saying it's so hard to eat healthy when, it's so expensive. But really, if you buy in bulk, it's a lot easier. Just like this quinoa, I buy big bags of that at Costco.
Let's talk about the olive oil for a second. Why cold pressed?
Cold pressed, I think, is just the best form that you can get, and it actually at a high heat level, which olive oil isn't. You shouldn't. If you're going to cook with high heat, you should actually cook more of coconut oil. It's the purest form, though, I believe. Yep.
And I think the extra virgin is even better. I'm not sure on the timing on that, but the extra virgin cold press is I think best too.
Yeah.
And again, monounsaturated fat, just all kinds of beautiful health benefits. And you're talking the Mediterranean diet. For when you start using a lot of olive oil and olives in your food.
It's another diet.
It's another diet, but they live long over there.
They do.
So it's worth doing. So talk about quinoa a little bit.
Okay,
quinoa is a grain, correct?
It's a perfect protein. It has all 8 essential amino acids to make it. Your body can't actually make that perfect protein.
Okay.
A lot of athletes will eat quinoa along with, I brought some chia seeds here. These are the new hot trend.
These rock.
Yes, you can put them in smoothies, make pudding out of them. I just think they're really great even on salads. It's like a poppy seed. You can put them in bread, whatever you want to do.
And unlike, we've said this before, but unlike flax seeds, which also have omega-3 fatty acids, the chia seeds do not need to be ground up. You can digest these as is, which is a huge benefit. You're not having to add a step to the program. These are great as a grain, but boy, we actually use them as a flour too.
Yeah. Any of these grains can be ground down into flour. We also like to cook with coconut flour as well.
Oh, that's cool.
It's different. Sometimes I have to save.
Smells less coconutty.
Yeah, but you can even bread your a fish fillet with this, and it has just a lower glycemic index. So
explain that to people.
Well, some products like agave nectar has a low glycemic index too, and there's a chart. Some of these things like a bagel has a pretty high glycemic index, and that's going to raise your blood sugar levels really high, and you're going to get this crash.
So what she's saying is, you're going to absorb this really quick because it's absorbed quick. Too much insulin goes in, and boom. So this 300-calorie bagel, which has 0 fat, because you absorb it so quick, and you don't need all those calories at once, it gets stored as fat.
Sugar and fat,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you right away you use up the sugar, but once that's saturated, this goes right to your butter belly, and now it's harder to get rid of. So don't fall for the no fat in my food. Yeah. That's not going to make you fat. Good fats are fine. They're worse than refined sugars.
Yeah, like good fats like avocados and olive oil, coconut oil. They're really good for you. It's important to just get familiar with the grocery store, and if you haven't tried something, just try it and you might like it.
So you walk around, you really help people with their shopping habits.
Yeah.
Because you really can't change your diet unless you're willing and committed to change and look different places in the grocery store. We have some of this stuff is from Costco, but you can get plenty of good things right from Plymouth. You don't need to be traveling down to Milwaukee.
Right. I mean, this oatmeal, for instance, this is just oats, okay? You can go ahead and buy this, package of maple brown sugar with natural and artificial flavors. You're going to get a lot of extra sodium, a lot of extra sugar. I like to sweeten with just this and maple syrup and some really good yogurt on top. Have you tried the Honey Greek Gods yogurt?
It's like an elixir.
I know. It's really scary. You have to portion it out, but I love that. It's one of my favorites.
But maple syrup is just loaded with different vitamins and minerals. That's a natural sweetener. Agave nectar, brown rice syrup. We have a guy who comes into my orchard and puts bees out. The guy from Cascade, and he gives us some honey. That local honey is fabulous in the oatmeal. It's just absolutely fabulous. It's all the sweetener you need. And don't you think that after you get away from the real sweet, I had one of these a couple weeks ago, and boy, I felt sick afterwards.
Yeah,
because it's so sweet.
Right.
If it's what you're used to, you don't know any better. But when you get away from it, you realize how poor you feel after.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people's problems, too, is, they're just hooked on sugar. And sometimes if you add some sweet vegetables into your diet, like carrots or onions or, any of those types of sweeter vegetables, beets, squashes, you're going to get that natural sugar, and you're not going to crave as much of this bagel, Twinkie.
They can those transition you nicely over.
Yeah.
Well, some of those artificial sugars, you have to ride that peak you were talking about. So because you crash, you need another spike, and it becomes I think it's almost as addictive as a drug.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of stuff out there, sugar as a drug. So when you can refrain from refined, you do a little better.
Right.
You do a little better. What else do you have here? This is
minute rice. So, if you were to eat this, there's nothing. It's been stripped and bleached of all the good fiber.
It's like white bread.
Yeah, it's almost like if you want to just eat this cardboard box, it'd be more nutritious for you.
There's probably more fiber in it in the wood pulp.
Yeah.
But you need the fiber in your intestines. She talked about her son initially in the last segment. When they were giving him antibiotics, it kills all the good bacteria. Well, those good bacteria feed on the fiber, which then they release their waste product is your gut lining's food. So if you don't have this symbiotic relationship, your gut lining goes to heck, and now all kinds of disease processes form when you have a bad gut lining.
Right, absolutely. That's why I think probiotics is really good for people too, because people with sinus infections and things, most of your immune system is in your digestive tract. So keeping that healthy is, key.
You need a lot of good bacteria to keep the bad bacteria out.
Yep.
Right? Otherwise they proliferate themselves. So that's the brown rice.
So this is the brown rice, and it has all three parts, the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. That makes up a whole grain.
Which that means it's going to digest slower and more gradual. And
keep you fuller longer.
Yep.
And again, we talk about eating healthy on a budget. This stuff is cheap.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that goes, this makes a lot.
Yeah, a lot. This bag will last a long time.
It's probably cheaper than this. We don't know the cost, but.
Right. I think it is cheaper than that. Another cheap source is lentils, which have great protein and fiber. Add this to your sloppy joes. I really like to trick my kids because, they're boys and they think they just need the meat. So if I can hide these, but now they're on to me, they know.
You haven't made a
lentil
hamburger
lentil
yet,
sloppy joe.
We had a lentil soup the other day and our kids eat it up.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a great. We had lentil crackers the other day. You can't tell.
Right.
Except you don't feel bad after.
Exactly. It's just subbing this for that.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. This is the kind of thing I brought in. This literally is really old. It was. I've been using this at some of my talks for a good year and a half, and it's still as soft and squishy and no mold, and there's no food sources in that. So, your education of people is going to help their lives, and it's very important that you continue that work. We're glad to have you doing that in the community, and obviously your massage work has been a benefit to hundreds of people over the years. And on that note, we're going to cut out. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
We thank you for being with us. Until the next time, we've got your back. Okay?
Nice.